the parking I do understand, but it's not just the people with the residents of this road, people who can't afford the station and so forth. I mean, I find it quite difficult to KCC Highways have said this, that all those roads along there, I know we're talking about Crescent Road here tonight, but all those roads, and we have a leader of the council who would tell us the same if she was here, because she lives down there, are chock-a-block with people leaving their cars there all day because it's free. Yes, we know there's yellow lines on the corners, but hopefully people don't park on the corners. So I realise the committee is still to keep to what we have agreed, and if it is brought, has to be brought back, I'm sorry, but I'm really feeling for the people here in Crescent Road.
Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chair. I think I probably agreed mostly with Councillor Hart that the problem here, and I have total sympathy with the neighbours, just as I had total sympathy with the neighbours of various residences in Broadstairs, where we also don't have, or didn't have, any sort of limit on conversion of houses into HMOs. The problem here lies not with planning, but with the licensing of these houses, and I think that this is a policy problem rather than something that we can suddenly unilaterally decide that this is one that's going too far. And much as I have concerns for the neighbour, I think that I abstained for the simple reason that I couldn't think of an actual planning reason for this to be refused, which didn't fly in the face of previous decisions. Why this one and not the one last week or the one last month? And so my only solution to this would be to offer the possibility of defer and delegate, which is a get-out clause for the committee, but maybe they can register their concerns in another way, and maybe the councillors that are on the cabinet can take this back and think about some speedy solution to the problem.
The proposed development would result in an increased demand for parking, which would cause inconvenience to residential occupiers in the vicinity of the site, and the proposal is therefore contrary to policy D1 of the local plan.
Those in favour, please. Thank you. Those against? Abstentions, please. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you. On under 24.1, thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm speaking on behalf of the Margate Conservation Area Advisory Group here tonight. This is a retrospective application for externally mounted roller shutters to the shop front of a Grade 2 listed building in the conservation area. The application has been brought before this committee on the grounds that the roller shutters are needed for the security purposes. The Council's own shop front policy guidelines outline alternative viable solutions for shop security that integrate within the streetscape of the conservation area and that of a listed building. The Council has produced a booklet that explains the acceptable solutions. English Heritage also provide clear and easy understandable guides. Business in the Old Town have installed heritage wooden shutters. Cuttings the Jewellers round the corner of Old Town has original wooden shutters that function perfectly well for a business that clearly has a need of security. The officer's report states that the committee's main considerations are to decide the impact on the designated conservation area and the listed building. The officer's report also states that metal shutters of this design may contribute to the impression that the area is being unsafe or prone to crime. This would have an obvious detrimental effect to the neighbouring business that have invested in quality frontages, such as the 4-star Sands Hotel. The High Street is seeing the positive growth of quality businesses, making it a more pleasant environment. The fact this is a retrospective application for unauthorised works to a listed building is very regrettable and a criminal offence. Thanet District Council have a strong track record in investing in the historic built environment. If all business install roller shutters of this nature, then we wouldn't likely have the economic success of the old town. Margate High Street is in a conservation area and has many fine buildings that should be protected. Those that are listed are afforded the highest protection. We urge the committee to refuse this application, as they have in the past, to similar applications, and to call on the applicant to work with the Conservation Department for a more sensitive solution to address their security concerns. Margate Conservation Area Advisory Group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wiltshire. I ask the officer to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is a retrospective application for the erection of security shutters on this commercial premises in the High Street. The property is here on the lower part of the High Street, edged red. The property is in the centre of the picture with the blue sign. A slightly closer photograph of the store. This is the shutter that has been installed. It's a solid appearing shutter, and the building is a listed building within the conservation area, obviously within the commercial High Street. The question that we need to consider when we look at this application and any other application for shutters is whether we can strike the right balance between the desire of the business to protect its interests and secure its property, whilst also ensuring that the conservation area, in this case a listed building, it has a satisfactory appearance and is not harmed by any proposed development. The Council has published guidance to applicants some years ago. It still exists, it's still valid, which aims to encourage sensitive proposals for shutters, so often internal shutters, or where external, then grille shutters or punch lace shutters with very large holes, so the shop can be seen through the shutter, rather than shutters that are solid or even perforated, where the view from the street is of a solid barrier to the premises. So that's the consideration. The advice is given in the guidance note. In this particular instance, as you can see, the shutter is a solid appearing shutter. The concern is that it doesn't enhance the appearance of the building, it causes harm to the appearance of the building. It also, in broader terms, in the officer view, doesn't support the regeneration of the High Street, in that what it creates is a solid and oppressive feel to the High Street. The more of these solid shutters that exist, the more closed the High Street looks when the shutters are down. And therefore, in this case, the officer opinion is that the balance has not been struck appropriately, and the proposal would cause harm, and therefore should be refused. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I therefore move the officer's recommendation to refuse. Secretary, please. Thank you. Right. Does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. I will repeat what I often say at these meetings about these roller shutters in the conservation area. Where that place is there, if you look next door, you have Hairology, Bentley's, the Bong Shop, the Joke Shop, all with shutters. Opposite there you have, let me think, Rickus, whatever. There are several shops down there with roller shutters, and they need them for their security. The fact that the High Street looks empty when they're down is probably because the shop is closed and there's nothing else for them to do in the High Street. I believe it's time that this council, or whoever's policy making or whatever else should be re-looking at this, because I would like to walk down the high street with an officer, conservation officer, and take photographs of all the different shutters there are down there, and I will always support any shop, wherever it is, that needs shutters, and I'm totally against refusal. Thank you.
Councillor Hart, please.
Chairman, I've got very strong sympathy with what the last person just said. I remember being on holiday in St Mark's Square in Venice, and out very early in the morning taking photographs to the sound of shutters coming down all around the square, or lifting all around the square. It seemed to me that I was in one of the most historic squares in Europe, and yet they had a more realistic sort of attitude towards roller shutters and permitted them so that the businesses could go home and sleep sound in their beds at night. That's what it was all about. And I also remember bang opposite this actual property some years ago, standing with a young lady who just spent £250,000 refurbishing what is now Rickus, and she was absolutely bawling her eyes out, crying, and saying to me, why, and you looked around and the high street was then just total dereliction, why are the council taking me to court because I've put roller shutters so that I can pull them down and go home and sleep a good night's sleep? That's all she wanted to do, be able to close. Is there any way that we can put a condition on what times they can be closed? It seems to me that if they're closed at night when there's no one about, it's really not a problem, and that supplies the security. Is there any way we can do that?
Maybe we could make it a condition.
The shutters would be obviously open when the shop is open, and closed when the shop is not closed. If the applicant agreed that, sorry, well, I can't remember if I said that correctly, but whichever way, and when the shop is open, the shutters will be open, and to the contrary, that would be closed when the shop is closed. So the point of that is that the only reasonable condition that could be imposed, and subject to the agreement of the applicant as well, would be to impose conditions requiring the shutters to be open whilst the shop is open. So my view would be that there wouldn't be any particular benefit served by a condition, because it would simply, and only could it reasonably reflect the opening times of the store.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Totally agree what's been said already. There's got to be a pattern. Interesting about timing, and I know we have Councillor Nicholson here, tonight, but he may recall this came in front of licensing, and I believe they have a very late licence, possibly to the early hours of the morning, and open at 6. So people wouldn't, the normal person wouldn't see the shutters because they'd be in bed. Well, no, sorry, Councillor, but I think you know what I mean, because we had an issue with, we had a licensing, we had an issue with this one, but even, I know it's not a listed building, and I know I'm going to be in trouble for saying this, but just go up the road a little bit, there's the Heinz Jewellers that is now Age UK, that my wife volunteers and runs, has shutters just the same as this. And I know it used to be a jeweller's and they took on what was there, but they need shutters for security. And I find this unbelievable that we're going through all this again.
Councillor Gregory, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, interestingly, on page 106 of the agenda, the Conservation Officer's report at the end of the first paragraph says, when the shop is not open for business and the shutters are closed and appear solid, the shutters are closed and appear solid, having a deadening effect on the shop front. Well, if the shop closed down completely because it kept getting broken into, it would be dead 24 hours a day. And what, I mean, this is nonsense. It really is. I understand the guideline that the council put out for shutters and the idea of having shutters with perforations so that light came through, but we're dealing with a building here, or a business here, that has a licence to keep open from 6 in the morning till 2 in the following morning, something like that. They're going to be up and out of the way most of the time. If the business goes down because people keep smashing the window and stealing the goods, it's going to be shut 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I'm sorry, this is absolute madness.
Councillor Matterford.
Thank you, Chair. As there are two applications in here, I've turned to page 115, which is a picture of the shutters up, and you can quite clearly see there it says off licence, open till late. Both Councillor Tomlinson and Councillor Gregory more or less said what I was going to say. If this shop is only closed for 4 hours a day, I can't honestly see what the problem is, assuming...
That's a particular concern of officers. This is a listed building, and therefore it would harm the character of that listed building. Thank you, Chairman.
Right. Well, I move refusal. Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak? Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, Chairman, the reason I called this is we've just allowed them to keep their shutters, and we're told in the report that this is a huge, it says large illuminated sign. That's not large. If you want to go and see large, walk up to Tesco's. But as far as I can see, if we can let them have the shutters, then we let them have that. And so I will not be supporting refusal.
Excuse me. Are there similar signs in that same? Are there similar signs in the same area?
There, I think I've got a street down the street. There are the occasional other sign within that area. However, the concern of officers would be that we would not want to see a proliferation of internally illuminated box signs within the area. There are other options available, which would be external illumination, which would be in principle acceptable. However, the size and appearance of a box sign is not considered to be acceptable on a listed building within a conservation area, and that's the reason for the recommendation for refusal.
Councillor Mick Tomlinson first.
Thank you, Chair. I will be quick. I went through all the business about the shutters. Again, it's a shop. It's got to advertise itself, as it's been mentioned moments ago about other places have illuminated signs. To bring it forward here, next door to it, you've got an alleyway which goes through to car park. For donkey's years, you've had next to that, which is, I know it's got an application in for planning, a derelict building, which is Watson's Cottage, which is the pittance, with pigeons flying everywhere, and we're having a go at a sign like this. I'm sorry, I won't go along with refusal.
Councillor Shirley Tomlinson, please.
Much the same, please. It's the same thing with all these signs and all these shutters. You know, these people have businesses. Yes, we've got to look after our heritage and our conservation, but sometimes you have to look outside the box, and I think this is a place where we have to do that. It's a light box. There are other signs that have been put up the high street without any planning permission that I wouldn't want to dob them in at all. So I won't be going with refusal.
Right, anybody else wishes to speak? Brilliant. Those in favour of refusal, please. Those against? Right. That's in lost. Okay, would somebody please move approval for the retention of the sign?
I do. Thank you.
Seconded, please. Right, thank you very much. Those in favour? Those against? Right. Abstentions? Right. It's carried.
Good.